If I had learned this lesson when I was 30, I'd probably be a millionaire by now. And if you're feeling stuck in life, well, listen up. Maybe my story can help you turn things around. Alex always thought $120,000 a year would be enough. It had to be, right? That's six figures. That's supposed to mean you've made it. That's the salary you read about in How to Get Rich blogs or see in YouTube thumbnails. How I landed a 120K job at 29 without a degree. But that night, sitting alone at his tiny kitchen table, Alex stared at the glowing screen of his laptop, his online banking app open, and felt the kind of hollow anxiety you can't quite explain to anyone. Available balance $234.50. Rent was due in 5 days. His credit card minimum was due in 3, and he still hadn't gotten groceries for the week. He leaned back, rubbed his tired eyes, and whispered under his breath, "Where the hell did it all go?" It wasn't the first time this had happened. Actually, it had become a kind of monthly ritual. Get paid, feel rich for 72 hours, spend without thinking, get nervous, survive on ramen, repeat. He glanced around the apartment. Nothing screamed irresponsible. It was clean, minimal, and actually pretty cozy. He didn't drive a fancy car, just a 6-year-old Honda Civic. He didn't wear designer clothes. His TV wasn't even that big. But then again, there was the iPhone he upgraded early, the $450 AirPods Max he rewarded himself with last month, the half-used gym membership, the $70 sushi dinners on random Thursdays, the $4 lattes that somehow added up to $100 a month, the weekend trips to Nashville, Denver, Austin, just to get away. He felt frugal, but the numbers didn't lie. He was making more money than 90% of the people he knew back in high school, and yet he had nothing to show for it but a pile of digital receipts and a growing sense of dread. Social media didn't help. He'd scroll through Instagram and see old college friends posing in Bali, sipping something fruity out of a coconut, or buying homes with captions like, "Adulting level unlocked." One guy he barely knew just posted a picture of his third investment property. And here was Alex, wondering if he should transfer $12.50 from savings to buy eggs. The worst part? He was supposed to be the smart one. Graduated top of his class. Landed a great job at a mid-sized tech firm in Chicago. Worked hard, stayed late, said yes to everything. The company even gave him a small bonus last Christmas. And yet here he was, 33 years old, no house, no savings, no investments, no plan, just vibes, and a whole lot of quiet panic. That night, Alex didn't sleep much. He lay in bed, phone face down on the nightstand, heart racing. The glow of the street lamp bled through his blinds. A thought echoed in his mind. Sharp and unwelcome. You make 6 figures, and you're still broke. What happens if you lose your job? That was the question he couldn't shake. Because deep down, he knew he had no real answer. He had no emergency fund, no backup plan, no one he could borrow from, no safety net. He was walking a financial tightrope every single month with a 6-figure salary. How did that make sense? He wasn't lazy. He didn't waste money on crazy things. He just lived, or so he thought. The next morning, still exhausted, Alex opened his laptop and started digging. He searched things like, why do I make good money but still live paycheck to paycheck? Is 120Kers a good salary? How to stop being broke, even with a good job? And slowly, painfully, the truth began to take shape. It wasn't about the job. It wasn't about the salary. It wasn't even about the economy, though yeah, that sucked too. It was about the habits, the silent, daily choices that flew under the radar, the small leaks that sank the whole ship. It's not what you earn, it's what you keep. He'd heard the phrase before, but it never felt real until now. Alex closed the tabs, sat in silence for a moment, and then opened a blank Google Doc. At the top, he typed 3 words, "Let's fix this." Alex wasn't always this way. In fact, back in his early 20s, he thought he was ahead of the game. He didn't grow up with much. His dad was a mechanic, and his mom worked the front desk at a dentist's office. Money was always tight. They never starved, but the lights got shut off a few times. Vacations meant road trips to Wisconsin Dells, and college was only possible because he got a scholarship and worked 3 part-time jobs. So, when he landed that first job out of college, $67,000 a year with full benefits, it felt like he had made it. The first thing he did, bought a brand new iPhone, then a smartwatch. Signed a lease for a modern studio downtown. Nothing crazy, just $1,700 a month. Started going out every weekend because, hey, he deserved to blow off steam. He'd gone years without any freedom. Now he finally had some breathing room. And the people around him? They were doing the same. His coworkers at the office ordered takeout for lunch like it was nothing. They wore Apple Watches and had standing desks and drank $6 lattes. No one brought food from home. That was for interns. Everyone talked about points, miles, credit card hacks. They joked about being broke on payday, but somehow never skipped brunch. It was this unspoken culture, one that said, spend it, enjoy it, you'll make more next month. And Alex bought into it. Hard. It didn't feel reckless at the time. It felt normal. Besides, he wasn't putting everything on credit. He paid his bills. He was being responsible. At least that's what he told himself. But what he didn't realize was that he was slowly writing a script for himself. One where every raise led to lifestyle upgrades. One where saving felt like deprivation and spending felt like freedom. One where he confused looking successful with actually being stable. Years went by like that. When he got promoted to $85K, he moved to a nicer apartment. When he hit $100K, he took a 2-week trip to Europe with his then girlfriend. When he reached $120K, he leased a new car, not because his old one broke down, but because everyone in the building drives something newer than 2012. He told himself it was okay, because this was what success looked like. But deep down, a quiet voice had already started asking uncomfortable questions. Why does every paycheck vanish within days? Why do I feel anxious every time I tap my card at Target? Why am I afraid to check my bank account? He ignored it for as long as he could. But ignoring something doesn't make it go away. It just grows, quietly, patiently, until one day it's too loud to drown out. And for Alex, that day came not long after his 33rd birthday, when his company suddenly announced a round of layoffs. He thought he was safe. He'd been there for years, got good performance reviews, even helped train new hires. But business was business. He walked into the office that Friday morning with a coffee in hand, and by noon, he was packing up his desk. No warning, no backup plan, no savings. He drove home in silence, didn't turn on the radio, didn't answer texts, just sat in traffic, staring blankly ahead, wondering how the hell it came to this. Later that night, he pulled up his bank account again, $234.15, and felt something shift. It wasn't just panic, it was clarity. He realized he hadn't failed because he didn't make enough money. He failed because he treated money like it was temporary, disposable, endless, and now it wasn't. The first Monday after he lost his job, Alex did something he hadn't done in years. He woke up early and didn't check his phone. No email, no Slack messages, no calendar reminders screaming about meetings, just silence. It was terrifying and weirdly peaceful. He made coffee at home, black because there was no oat milk left and he wasn't about to Uber to Whole Foods. He sat down at the same kitchen table where he'd once scrolled Zillow listings he couldn't afford and opened his laptop again. This time, he didn't search for jobs. He searched for answers. Not how to get rich or how to make passive income. No shortcuts, no hacks. Instead, he typed, how to build better money habits. It sounded basic, but that's where he needed to start. What followed wasn't glamorous. It was a rabbit hole of blogs, YouTube videos, Reddit threads, and library ebooks. He read about zero-based budgeting, about automating savings, about living on 50% of your income, even if you make good money. He read about this idea called lifestyle creep, the way your spending always finds a way to match your income unless you intentionally stop it. It hit him hard because that was exactly what had happened. Every time he got a raise, he thought, now I can finally breathe. But instead, he just leveled up his expenses. Better apartment, nicer car, more seamless splurges. He was always chasing freedom, but never actually catching it. That day, he opened a spreadsheet and did something he had always avoided. He listed out every recurring expense he had. It was ugly. Rent, $2,000. Car lease, $480. Car insurance, $140. Phone, $95. Subscriptions, $89. How did he even end up with 3 streaming services and a digital magazine he never read? Gym, $65. Credit card payments, $400 minimums. Eating out. He couldn't even bring himself to total it. He stared at the numbers like they were strangers he just met. And then came the decision. If I'm going to rebuild, I have to burn this version of me down first. He canceled every subscription he didn't use. He paused the gym, started running outside instead. He called his leasing company to ask about breaking the car lease. They said it cost him $1,200. Painful, but he made a plan to eat that cost and buy something used in cash when the time came. He cooked all his meals at home that month. No sushi Thursdays, no weekend coffee runs, no brunch, just rice, eggs, frozen veggies, beans. Not glamorous, not Instagram worthy, but for the first time, every dollar had a job. And then came the real challenge, looking in the mirror. Because cutting expenses was one thing, but changing who you are when no one's watching, that's the hard part. Alex had to admit that he wasn't just bad with money, he was emotionally attached to spending. He bought things when he felt anxious. He went out when he felt lonely. He upgraded stuff because he wanted to feel successful, not just be it. He journaled about it. Read more books, not just on finance, but on psychology, on habits, on how we humans do stupid things with money, even when we know better. One line from a book stuck with him. Money problems are never just about money. That punched him in the gut. So he went deeper. He started noticing patterns, like how he always spent the most when he was bored, tired, or felt like his life was falling behind other people's. The problem wasn't that he didn't earn enough. The problem was that he never built the muscle of discipline, never built a system, never learned how to sit with discomfort without immediately buying something to feel better. And in those quiet mornings, sipping homemade coffee and journaling in a $2 notebook, something clicked. Maybe being rich isn't about having more. Maybe it's about needing less and knowing what actually matters. By the end of that month, his bank balance was $678. Still small, still scary, but it wasn't negative, and for the first time in years, he felt like he was in control. By month 2, Alex had trimmed every ounce of financial fat he could. The car lease? Terminated. He took a hit on the penalty but sold a few things on Craigslist to soften the blow. Now he walked, biked, or took the bus, something he hadn't done since college. And weirdly, he liked it. He moved out of his fancy downtown apartment, packed up his things into storage, and rented a small room in a house out in the suburbs. It wasn't glamorous. The walls were thin, his roommate's cat was mildly evil, and the commute into the city for interviews took forever. But the rent? $620 a month. And the peace of knowing he wasn't drowning anymore? Priceless. His savings slowly grew. $678 turned into $1,050. Then $1,600. It wasn't much, but it was the first time in years his money moved in the right direction. Each dollar felt like a small act of rebellion against his old life. Job hunting was humbling. Alex had once led teams, closed six-figure deals, trained new hires. Now, he was sending out resumes into the void, getting ghosted by startups run by people younger than he was. But this time, he wasn't just chasing a paycheck. He was looking for a life that fit, not one that just looked good on LinkedIn. He started freelance writing on the side, picked up contract gigs, editing, proofreading, even ghostwriting for a personal finance blogger. It didn't pay like his old salary, but it paid the bills. And better yet, it forced him to get creative again, to use his brain in ways that his old 9-to-5 had numbed. He read somewhere that if you can earn $1 on your own, without a boss, you can eventually earn $1,000, then $10,000. That idea stuck with him. So he leaned in. He built a simple website, started networking online, cold emailed small businesses offering to clean up their marketing materials. It was slow, but it was his. 3 months in, he landed a full-time remote job, not in tech sales like before, but as a content strategist for a growing education startup. The pay, $92K. Not quite what he made before, but solid. And best of all, no office, no dress code, no soul-sucking commute. Old Alex would have celebrated with a new couch or maybe a MacBook Pro. New Alex, he made a budget. Set up automatic transfers, 20% savings, 15% to retirement, 10% to a freedom fund. He opened a Roth IRA, researched index funds. He read about the FIRE movement, financial independence, retire early. And while he didn't plan to retire at 40, he did want to stop living like he was on a treadmill. And it wasn't just about saving. It was about learning to love the simple stuff again. He started cooking, not because he had to, but because it slowed him down. Started journaling every morning, not just to budget, but to stay awake to his choices. Started walking more, reading more, buying less. The guy who used to drop $200 on retail therapy without blinking now found joy in a $6 paperback at the thrift store. One Friday night, about 6 months after losing his job, he found an old hoodie while cleaning out a closet from the company that laid him off. He stared at it for a long time, not with bitterness, but with gratitude. Because losing that job, it forced him to ask a question he'd spent years avoiding. What if the real problem wasn't my income, but my habits? Today, Alex's income is lower than his all-time high, but his net worth is the highest it's ever been. He has no car payment, no credit card debt, a 6-month emergency fund. He maxes out his Roth IRA. He spends less than 50% of what he earns. And for the first time in his adult life, he sleeps well at night. Because wealth, he learned, isn't a number. It's a rhythm, a set of daily choices, a relationship with money built on respect, not escape. One rainy afternoon, nearly a year after losing his job, Alex got a message on LinkedIn. It was from Jake, an old coworker. Same startup, same grind. They used to grab overpriced sandwiches and complain about how overworked they were. Jake's message was short. Dude, I just got laid off. No warning. I've got maybe 2 months of rent saved. What do I do? Alex stared at the screen for a long time. He knew that panic, the late-night spreadsheet terror, the shame of not knowing how you got here, even when you'd been making good money. He called Jake that night. They talked for over 2 hours. Alex didn't give him some magic fix. He didn't pretend to have all the answers, but he told the truth. How he used to spend $5,000 a month and still feel broke. How he thought income would save him, but it was his habits that did. I thought I needed to earn more, but I just needed to learn more. That call sparked something in Alex. He realized he wasn't the only one. Everyone around him, smart, hardworking, talented, was stuck in the same trap. Earn, spend, repeat. No system, no plan, no peace. So he started writing, not for money, not for clicks, but because someone out there needed to hear the things he once wished someone had told him. His first blog post was titled, "I made $120K and still felt broke. Here's why." It went semi-viral on Reddit. People flooded the comments with their own stories. I'm 34 and have nothing saved. We make a combined $200 and still live paycheck to paycheck. Thank you for saying this. I thought I was the only one. Alex kept writing. He shared how he budgeted without feeling restricted, how he automated his savings because relying on willpower was a losing game, how he built tiny habits, cooking 3x a week, waiting 24 hours before any online purchase, checking his accounts once a week instead of avoiding them. He talked about money shame, about how it wasn't just a math problem, it was an emotional one, and about how we use spending to numb ourselves from hard truths. Months later, he was invited to speak at a local community college, a free financial literacy event. The room was filled with 20-somethings, single moms, career switchers, people trying to start over, just like he once had. He stood at the front of the room and said, "Let me ask you something. If your job doubled your salary tomorrow, would you be financially secure, or would you just have nicer problems?" The room was silent. He let that sink in. "Your income doesn't make you rich," he said, pausing. "Your habits do." That was the moment he saw it click in people's eyes, just like it had once clicked for him. Now Alex lives simply. No luxury car, no brand name obsession, no high-rise apartment. But he has choices. He works 30 hours a week, not because he has to, but because he can. He takes months off to travel. He mentors others through online workshops. He donates monthly to financial literacy programs. He reads every morning and still drinks black coffee at the kitchen table. His life isn't flashy, but it's his. Built brick by brick, not on windfalls or luck, but on small, consistent habits. And here's what Alex knows now, deep in his bones. You don't need a 6-figure income to build wealth. You don't need to be perfect with money, just intentional. You don't need more things, you need more clarity. And you don't need to get rich fast. You need to become the kind of person who stays rich slowly. Because money isn't just what you earn, it's how you think, how you act, how you choose when nobody's watching. And those choices, they compound, just like debt does, just like savings does, just like freedom does. So if you're watching this right now, wondering how to get out of the mess you're in, start small. Track your spending, cancel one useless subscription, pack lunch tomorrow, transfer $50 into savings. Just start. Not because any one of those things will make you rich, but because they will make you disciplined. And discipline, that's the real wealth. So tell us in the comments, what's one habit you're going to change starting today? Maybe it's cutting one subscription. Maybe it's tracking your spending. Maybe it's just breathing and not panicking. Drop it below. We read every comment. And if this story meant something to you, if you're ready to change your own money story, hit that subscribe button. Be part of a community that's not chasing quick cash, but building smart money habits for life. This is Smart Money, Dumb Money, where we turn money mistakes into money wisdom. See you in the next story.